ago. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, currently works as a business analyst for one of the top. Is the accounting firm that you work for? I don't even know, but they are very popular. Very, very popular around the world. So yeah, she'll be sharing her experience, her journey, the highs and the lows, and hopefully you can learn from her experience as well. So, thanks, and over to you, Aduki.
good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Akin. Thank you so much for this privilege to share my experience. I hope it would be impactful to as many people as possible. As earlier introduced, my name is Olubukala Elizabeth, popularly known as Aduki, and I'm a business analyst. I work with one of the big fours, and today I would be sharing my experience pivoting into tech, how the journey has been so far, the things that have worked for me, and basically what I try to encourage people I'm opportunity to talk to try to do because they worked for me, and I hope they work for them as well. So, I'm going to start with how my journey, what I've learned so far, and turning point in my career. I came into the UK to do my master's in international business. And before then, I used to work as a development manager with Suzuki Nigeria. And at the point where I got to the UK, finished my master's, did my business analyst training with Mr. Aki, and did a bit of work with them. At that point, before then, I was struggling to understand what I really wanted to do in the UK because international business is quite broad. And then I wanted to, apart from looking for how to get my stability in the country, I wanted to do something that I would love doing and I would earn well from. And so when I started the course with Learn with Pride, I remember a question Mr. Akin asked at I think the first class we had. And it was like, why are you doing this course? What exactly do you want from this course in like the next couple of years? And it was during that conversation, he did say something about how your past experience is not wasted and how you can still pivot into another line technology with whatever you've been doing before. And that really struck me because I was coming from a um, business development line where, you're trying to go into the market and, doing all the strategic thinking and all that. And then, yeah, I am in the UK with a degree, but I wasn't sure where I was going to. I wasn't sure. I was as confused would be. And then taking one step at a time, on the trying to like understand, okay, in Nigeria, when I was developing trying to push a product into the market, I would try to understand what the customers wanted. I would try to understand the value proposition we were offering into the market and things like that. I just wanted to understand how I could fit in the UK. And then after a lot of conversations, I'm like, you know what? Everything I'd been doing in Nigeria was practically getting me ready to be a business analyst or a product manager or a project manager anywhere. And what I did was I tried to hone those skills I had from back home, did a lot of reading, did some courses, and then I put my CV out there and I started applying for jobs. And that was basically my turning point to know that, okay, the turning point for me was understanding how to sell myself, understanding how to sell my skills, how to promote myself to people that I was talking to employers, to like knowing exactly what I wanted. And it was a journey, a long journey, but understanding what I wanted helped me to transition. And um, yeah, that was very important in my journey, if I must say. Then, when I started to work as a business analyst, well, I had to unlearn, relearn. The learning continues every day. And most importantly, you never stop studying. It's always, you have to keep learning. It gets hard, it gets easier. From one project to the other, you learn one thing or the other. I mean, of course, I'm sure people on here now, I don't have to explain what being a business analyst is to anybody. Yeah, and common misconception. I'm trying to be as brief as and not going into too much details
Is it okay to
to,
share your video so that they can know that it's not
yeah.
AI talking though?
Sure, that's fine. Can
Oh,
everyone
thank
see me?
you. Yes.
Okay. So this is me. So yeah, basically it was more of understand, like sitting down to think about what I could do and what I did best at transitioning those skills into tech. For instance, the conversations I had to have with customers, like I said earlier, that's basically requirement gathering in business analysis. Trying to manage people's expectation of, oh, unable to deliver this product, please give on time. All those conversations you have to manage customers, that stakeholder management. And like for everything I did, I basically found a way to interpret it into what I was now trying to do now, which was me trying to be a business analyst. Then moving on from all that, when I started working with my current employer, um, I would still call Mr. Hakian. What do you call it? I would have this what do you call it? Like, oh, there's a word that is running from my head now, imposter syndrome. And I'll be like, oh, are you sure this is me? I can't do this. And you'll be like, what? Aduki, you can do this. You can do this. Just keep doing it and all that. And the reason why I made note of that is to say, see, in every step in life, you get to a point where you start to question yourself. Why am I here? Are you sure I'm good enough? Are you sure I can do this? You're here because you're good. Yes, you can do it, because if you couldn't, they wouldn't employ you. No employer is looking for somebody they would have to, be telling what to do. If you're not good, they wouldn't employ you. So yes, those questions will come. And that's why it's always good to have a community to support you in every journey. And then another misconception, just looking at my notes, another misconception about being a business analyst, I always try to tell people I talk to is, oh, I'm a business analyst. Do I need to code? I don't know how to code. I watch people, that's data analysis is different from business analysis. Yes, sometimes you could do some similar works, but you don't need to know how to code. You just need to know how to think critically. You just need to know how to be a deep thinker. You need to be strategic and a fast thinker, if that makes sense. Then another thing I always mention again is, oh, my current background is not technology. How then can I pivot into technology? Like I said earlier, there are transferable skills that you could always, like, whatever you do currently, be a teacher in school, you're managing the toughest stakeholders in life, children. If you can deal with children, you can manage any stakeholder. What other What other walk of life can I think of? I don't know. But the point is, anything you do currently, you have one or two transferable skills you can bring into technology. And then the bulk of it will be you then brushing up your skills, learning on different platforms. And thank God for technology. You have the likes of Udemy, you've got the likes of Coursera, so many platforms you can learn from. I mean, you just keep learning. Now, another thing people talk to me about to say is, oh, I don't have any certification for my skills. See, I'm a living testimony. When I got my job, I didn't have any certification. In fact, I did my CPAP certification this year and have been working with my employers 3 years now. In as much as certification is very important, I advise to each his own. This is just my what worked for me. Like I can only say based on my experience. It was easier for because these certifications they are not cheap. They don't come cheap. So it was easier for me to do certification after years of practicing as a business analyst. So when I was studying, it was easy for me to assimilate. It was easy for me to understand because I can basically think about, oh, what the project I'm on, and I could relate it to what I was studying. So it was easy to understand. And that way, after paying like say $500, £500, I'm not having to resit that exam over and over again. So my advice to people is usually, in as much as the certifications are important, they kind of open doors for you, but your experience, what you can do, would be the one to keep the doors opened. And I would always say, try to practice, have a good understanding of business analysis in this point before you then think of, oh, I want to do this certification. Yes, for others, they're very good at doing exams and they could pass without practicing. Good for you. Me, I'm not that kind of person. I've got to study, 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 study. And to see what I study makes me good at what I do. Then another now, yes, breaking into the industry, what worked for me as a new entrant. Like I said earlier, it's very important to have a community, somebody to talk to. And at that point in time, Mr. Akin was somebody I used to talk to a lot. And I would be like, oh, Mr. Akin, the job market is so hard. I don't know what to do. How do I even break in? Like I know people that have been business analysts for 5 years and they don't have a job. All the fear you can think about will come. And one of the advice he gave to me that really worked for me and I keep passing on to people is don't just go applying for jobs in every industry and every job posting out there. Well, that didn't work for me. What worked for me is I sat down, I thought for a very long time, what did I want to do as a business analyst? What industry did I want to work in as a business analyst? And I doctored my CV towards just that industry. So I sat down and I'm like, okay, I want to be a business analyst in a consulting firm. And then I can remember he asked me then why a consulting firm? And I'm like, because it's a consulting firm, they will have different kind of projects they're doing. And I want to work on diverse projects. I'm like, okay. And then started working on CV. But what I then did, I researched people I knew were currently doing the role I wanted. Looked at their CV, like did a proper map of what I thought I wanted my journey to look like. Of course, it's kind of changed from then till now, but I had like a skeletal mapping of, okay, this is where I want to be, this is where I am right now, and how do I get from point A to point B? So started studying, updated my CV as I studied, and then I was so focused on consulting firms. So my CV was doctored to face that industry, and I kept pushing that CV out everywhere. And then from when I started applying for jobs till I got a job was about 3 months. Now, bear in mind, I'm not selling a product to you. I'm telling you my experience and what worked for me. For some people, you can face 5 industries and you get it. Me, I had to be focused on one, and that was what worked for me. And then, yeah, I think that meets my point on 4 steps that worked for me as a new entrant. And then when I got the job, I spoke about the issues I had about thinking, oh, am I good enough? Those questions come. But one thing I always tell people is nobody would give you a piece of work to work on and they'll expect you to deliver immediately that day or in 2 days or whatnot. There would always be a conversation to like, okay, how long would it take you to work on this? So even if you've never done that job before, you're not going to cast yourself to say, I don't know how to do it. No. That's why you've got the likes of ChatGPT, you've got all the AI you can think about, you've got Google, you've got YouTube, you've got people you can talk to like share ideas and brainstorm on things. And then you have all these resources you can fall back on, and you always have time to get the job done. So because you've never worked as a business analyst doesn't mean you don't have experience that would be very beneficial to you as a business analyst. Now, I think I approached a bit on navigating the job market. I have not looked for a job in 3 years. So I wouldn't say I am very on the know of what the current job market is like. But what I know from doing a bit of work on HR tools is usually your skills. Your skills always matter. And then what is like not just apart from your soft skills, your experience. Another thing I know for instance, UK now is especially in technology, a lot of people looking for, okay, you're good at doing this, you're good at doing that. Good. However, how are you giving back to the community? Are you volunteering? Are you taking time to mentor people? Like, are you, whatever, however you're doing it, how are you giving back to the community? And a couple of things I've learned about you not just being a good business analyst, but a business analyst that can be globally competitive. Apart from making sure you're good at what you do, you're having certifications like the likes of CBA, BCS, and the likes of that. You should not just, you need to belong to a strong community. And such communities, for instance, in the UK, you've got BCS. Global in the US, Canada, you've got likes of CVAP. It's very important if you want to be globally competitive to join these bodies. Even like I would not say, well, your level of being active depends on you, but for you to have connections within the community as a practitioner, it is becoming very important for you to belong to these communities. And it's not just about belonging to these communities, it's also important for you to be a bit active. For instance, on BCS, you could register to be a mentor. You could register to be a mentee, like you're looking for a mentor to mentor you. All these things are available on such platforms. And then when you're when you're looking at global visibility, all these things count. For instance, I think this is, I think, the third time I'm doing this, for volunteering to do this in the last 3 years. And funny enough, I never even knew how important it was to volunteer to do the talks until very recently. And I've been doing it for the last 3 years. And now you get to see, okay, for instance, if you were doing, say, relocating professionally, they would ask you for evidence of how you have given back to the community. And all these things matter. Apart from the certifications you're getting from these communities. So the point of all this all together to say is, apart from you focusing on doing the job as being a business analyst, is really extremely important for you to like belong to a community of like-minded people if you want to grow. Like, yeah, if you want to be globally competitive as well, because sometimes you even see on these platforms where they're advertising jobs. You could say you could get recommended for jobs on these platforms. I mean, so yeah, yeah, very quite important. I don't think I've missed anything on trying not to waste that. Yes. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, hello, thanks for that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, if you have any questions, please you can start to raise your hand and ask your questions.
Can you hear me?
Well, oh yeah, go on with your
Yeah,
question.
hi Adeote, nice to meet you. Good
Hi.
evening.
Good evening.
Sorry to bother you. Honestly, I just wanted to thank you for tonight. You've actually said a lot within the couple of minutes that you've spoken. The question I would really go up to really quick would be, while you work as a BA at the moment at your current being with your current employer, would you say there's any tough time or there's any hard situations being a BA currently, please?
Many, sure.
Oh, yes. There are always tough times. Sometimes it could be, I think, in my experience, the toughest you could get could be a non-cooperative stakeholder. Because as a business analyst, 95% of your job is engaging with stakeholders. It could be internal stakeholders, it could be external stakeholders, but 95% of your job is like engaging with stakeholders, because you can't get information if you don't talk to stakeholders. You cannot even, like, the customer is your stakeholder. The developer that is developing the tool is your stakeholder. You could have a very difficult stakeholder on both sides. And if you don't find a way to communicate and be professionally friendly, they could make your life a living hell. I've worked on projects where this particular stakeholder, for every time we had a meeting, the requirements changed for the same thing. The requirement changed for the same thing. And it was ridiculous because the business is not supposed to solutionalize to say, oh, this is how. They could give you a requirement to say, oh, we want this, we want that, XYZ in our tool, but not to say, oh, we want the X to run this way so the Y can run this way, because that's the job of the developer. Now, I've got this business stakeholder that is telling me this is how I want it to run, and this is how I want it to run. And then I'm liaising with the developer that is saying, no, it cannot run that way. It has to run the opposite way. And that project was just difficult from the beginning. So in such, one then comes to play is trying to speak to the stakeholders separately. It's like, okay, we're trying to get you what you want. However, this approach isn't working, which basically means you have to learn to manage adults. Like you have to learn how to be as communicative as possible. You have to learn to not manipulate, well, to an extent, just to try and get what you want from your stakeholders and make sure you have a cordial relationship with them. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that did. Thank you so much. So I could relate with what you're just saying right now. Because I'm actually with Learning Pride currently. So honestly, you saying this in real life world, it does actually add up. And thank you so much for clarifying. So I could tell like communicating on both ends is very vital, just because
Yeah.
you're trying to satisfy both the stakeholders and you're trying to make sure the developers are doing what the stakeholders want at the same time. So it does. So you just have to find a common ground to explain and
Yes.
make them understand, or what other options have they got to take on. So it does make sense. Thank you so much.
You're
You can
Yeah.
welcome.
carry on. If I have any more questions, then I don't want to take much of your time. Thank you.
Sure. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Thanks, Miriam. Before I call on the next person, I want to ask a quick question myself. 4 years ago, compared to where we are now, we've really grown, right? And I could remember that 4 years ago, when you finish with your training, we don't have a proper project. I think you only did a capstone project. There wasn't any developer, there wasn't nothing like that. Because again, as I said, we've grown over the years compared to what we have now. We have a full setup now where, whether you're a business analyst or whatever project manager, you experience, that full team, and you work on a real project as well, from developer to Scrum to product owner to business analyst to software tester. They have the full team now. Now back to my
Mm.
question. Um, your own case, I could say, was even more of the training, and the capstone project was just there to back up a few points from the training. And eventually, when you secure that role, bear in mind that you've not really experienced the full capacity of how your role works,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
before you secure that role.
Yeah.
The first 3 months or the first 4 months, or let's even say the first 6 months on the job, how
Mm-hmm.
were you able to survive on that role?
Hmm. That's serious imposter syndrome. Serious imposter syndrome. Hmm. That's why I'm saying, I'm sure, like the first 3 or 6 months, we used to talk like every week. I had serious imposter syndrome. Then at work, the way work is structured is every staff has a career coach. So for me, fortunately for me, my imposter syndrome was not really seen as an imposter syndrome of, oh, she's new at being a BA. It was seen as the imposter syndrome of joining a big four, which is normal, apparently, when you're coming from industry into the firm. So I had a career coach at work and a body at work that helped me to transition into the firm. Now, with the project I was working on, because I had a buddy who was also a business analyst, so we could basically bounce ideas with each other. And I can tell you, and that's why I preach highly of having a community of like-minded people. If I did not have that buddy at work who was also a business analyst, it would have been tougher. aside the body I had at work, I spoke to friends who were also in the tech industry, and I would bounce ideas with them. And that's why when then we didn't have the life project, but then I would reach out to Mr. Akin. I would be like, oh, is there any project I can help with, volunteer to work on? And that was to improve my own knowledge as a business analyst. So during that time, what helped me was being able to bounce ideas with like-minded people. And then I was reading a lot. Udemy is my best friend. If I Google, YouTube, very wonderful resources. And then the likes of Chat, GPT, Copilot, I would just go there and be okay. I'm working on XYZ project. I'm supposed to do this analysis. Guide me as a layman on how to do this. Or even if I didn't know how to prompt then, because all this AI, they were all new then. I would, because, and then at work, we used to work a lot on LLMs. So I would be like, okay, show me how to prompt you to do XYZ. And then it would do that. And then I would read, 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 and read. So yes, that's one of the reasons why I mentioned imposter syndrome. I don't know, but most of the people I've met and have been opportune to speak to, like 8 out of 10 people we have imposter syndrome when they first join a new role, especially when they're just pivoting. And my response to that is always have a community of like-minded people you can bounce ideas through. That helps a lot.
Yeah, thanks for that. Chinemere.
Okay, yeah, I have lots of questions, but I'll try to summarize it in a couple of sentences. So, my background, I was previously a math teacher. So after some time, I was like, okay, let's, move on to something different. So that's when I came to the UK and I completed my master's. That was okay. I started 2023 and then completed in 2024. But I can remember that 2023 up to 2024. I mean, I can remember I received calls, internship. I had, even while as a student, I had an interview with, I can't remember their name again, one of these tech companies. And yeah, I mean, I had someone also even contact me on LinkedIn, even though the opportunity closed up. But after, the new rule was made, the increase in threshold, I observed something different. Now, at least then you could get people reach out to you and eventually it doesn't work. But it's gotten to a point where you don't even get a response. Like you don't get a response. And I've talked to several persons, and I think that the reason is that slowly, and I think it's due to policy and also the advancement of AI. Entry level positions are kind of like whittling away. They are still out there, but the number has drastically
Yeah.
reduced. So I think the
Mm.
bone of contention now is experience. There's always this huge emphasis on experience, experience. Now you say something about volunteer.
Mhm.
How do we, get hands on this volunteering opportunities? Because I guess that's even if it's not paid, to write on your CV that you work with so so and so, and you were part of this, and this is your contribution, and this is the outcome. I think it has more weight than, oh, I went and watched a couple of videos on YouTube.
Mhm.
Maybe in the past it used to have an impact, but these days, based on what is happening on job market, most employers are interested in mid to senior level. I mean that maybe that's what I've been saying, but
Yeah.
they're interested in mid to senior level, people that they wouldn't really, they want you to come in there and you're up and running without any. So how do we get our hands on this volunteering role?
Mm.
How do we, because I've even there is this tech company that they organized this, kind of work experience kind of this thing where they give us 2 weeks to complete. I mean, like you said, I mean, there's a lot you can do with AI. I mean, I completed a data engineering project, completed our chats, created a chat box, all those stuff. But again, it seems like it's not enough. So I'm guessing there, how do we get our hands on these volunteering roles to say, I work with this company, whether or not you're paid, that's not the, that's not the this thing. How do we get it? How do we get across to those people? Because it seems like it's very difficult. People say it, but I'm like, where are they? Where are this company that, offer
Mhm.
volunteering roles? Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the saying, your network is your net worth?
Yes, I
And
know.
okay, and what that basically means is, okay, in the context of the question you asked, sometimes based on your network, you don't even have to go on job boards to find this volunteer roles. You could go to, for instance, say, okay, we're here now. It could be virtual, or it's a virtual meeting of like-minded people. And you're like, oh, I'm looking for this certain thing. And just by speaking to one, two, three, or four people, you get the volunteering role you're looking for.
Hmm.
Not everything is on job boards. It comes from your networking. So when you see all this, they have a lot of free networking activities. For instance, I live in Manchester. There's a lot that goes on within the tech community that is free. Not everything is paid for. So rather than sitting at home watching Netflix, it's nice to Netflix and chill. But all these networking events, you meet this person, you tell them your background, you sell yourself. Now, you said you built a chatbot with the use of AI.
Yeah,
I've worked on certain projects and I built a chatbot. You don't have, who cares if you use AI to build it? It's the way you sell yourself. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense.
yes, yes, yes.
Oh, there's okay. I remember when I was first working on my CV, and there was a particular place where I've worked on um I've worked on small and large projects.
Hmm.
And now, like then, that sounded wonderful to me.
Hmm.
Now, I would gladly say that is rubbish. Now, listen to these two things, and they mean exactly the same thing. One tells you, I worked on small and large projects, and the other tells you, I've worked in both the public and private sector. Which one tells you I'm a professional?
The second.
Exactly. The way you sell yourself is extremely important. So I know how to code. I don't know how to code. Okay, I know how to write whatever script in A sharp, whatever. I don't know how to code, right? And oh, I learned it on YouTube. Who cares where you learned it? Sell yourself. You have the skills, you can do the job. Sell yourself. So if I was selling myself as a new entrant, actually, that's what I did. I did not sell myself as somebody that has never had a role as a role tagged business analyst
Hmm.
because the 6, 7 years I had worked in Nigeria, I was doing business analysis roles, but it was never tagged business analyst. I was tagged business development manager, operations manager, whatever you can think of, but never a business analyst. But when I sat down and I was redoing my CV and trying to sell myself, I realized, I've been a business analyst for 7 years and I didn't know. And I rewarded it to make sure I was selling myself for the opportunity I was looking for. So, for your first question, how do you get volunteering roles? Network, 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 network. Virtually network, physically network. Then people are looking for mid-level, not entrant, sell yourself properly. I would tell you, you as a new entrant might even have better skills, better experience than the mid-level person you're talking about. Is you selling yourself and showcasing your skills.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, that makes sense. And yeah, that does make sense. That does make sense. The networking aspect. I mean, I know that, one time last year, there was this opportunity that I almost got it, but it didn't work out at the end of the day. But at least I bypassed, a certain stage and just jumped to the interview stage. And that recommendation was, from my program director back in university. I mean, that was when I saw the power of recommendation. Like, you don't even have to wait on the queue. Like, you get an audience immediately. So yeah, I agree. Is where to find all this kind of things. But yeah, I think we need to do a bit more searching and trying to find where all these events are going on and try to. And then okay, I also think the second one is important. Trying to, rather than saying, oh, I'm just a zero level person, and they just he's and move on to the next. Try to say, okay, this is what I've done. Basically, yeah, I think there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah. I mean, even I, till now, there are some things I still like when I work with a colleague and we have a feedback system at work for every project we do. And then say I worked with a colleague where I know I did like a lot more on that project than my colleague. And I see the way they write their feedback and I'm like, hey, what's going on here? They will sell themselves and you'll be like, oh my God, that's a great job. And even you can't be humble in things like this. As in, forget humility when it comes to professional settings. I'm not saying be arrogant or whatnot, but when it
Mm,
comes to you selling yourself, because the truth is, your CV sells you,
mm,
like gives people the opportunity to meet you before they actually meet you.
me too, yeah.
So if your CV is not catchy, if your CV is not interesting, is not telling somebody, I really want to meet this person, you will never get the opportunity to meet that person.
True, true, true.
Yeah.
Any more questions from you, Chinemere?
No, no, not for now.
Yeah, I've sent few links on the chat, on the Zoom chat, for those looking for volunteering role. You can check it out. Data, I think. But again, you can check it out. So yeah, as she has said, you know, you can be applying to any role and tell them, oh, you know what, I volunteer with so company, because you want to be competitive. Even, sorry to say, as small as Learn with Pride is, I won't take such person.
Mm.
But I would take you if you bamboozle me with what I saw online or on your CV. And which has happened to me before. I recruited someone. The LinkedIn was so catchy, as in loads of stuff that she said she can do. I invited her for interview. Again, she bamboozled me on that interview. But it was when she started working, I realized that this is two different things. It's not matching up,
Mm.
you know. But she knows how to talk the good talk, you
Mm,
know.
yeah.
And our presence online opened that door for her up onto the interview stage, even getting that role. Before I realized that I've made that mistake. So before I put anyone through for interview now, I do like an assessment,
Mm,
just to test the level of their knowledge before I even
knowledge.
push them for interview. So that is it. Nobody will say, I just completed the training on their CV. No, you have to build yourself up to the level whereby you can be able to compete with people who has been doing it out there for the last 2, 3 years. And that is when your daily sacrifice come into play. You might not even be chanced to work on any volunteering role. Again, going back to Aduki, during our time, we didn't have a project. Even during my own time, I didn't work on any project. But how was I able to transition? How was I able to bamboozle them at the interview to the extent of me securing that role when I had no clue about how these things are done in the real world?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
I didn't have the chance. I only did a 3 months training. But so many sleepless nights, me trying to put pen to paper on how I'm going to tackle, you know, any interviews. I draft out my own questions, start practicing my own scenarios. That is why whenever I talk from experience. I don't talk from the perspective that, this is the student-teacher relationship. No. I tell you what has worked for me in the past. But now that we even have a better setup, better structure, that is why I said for anyone you know, who is doing what they're supposed to do, again, very key point, sacrificing your time, energy, and sweat, in the journey. It's not a miracle. There's nothing like a miracle. Yes, a miracle can happen, but you have to trigger that miracle to happen.
Mm.
You need to trigger that miracle to happen. It's not like you want to go and do a math exam and you've not been practicing on that math. Rather, you've just been reading math. You cannot read math. You need to put pen to paper and solve different issues, you know. That's the same way, you know. All right, Tokpe, over to you.
Good evening.
Yeah,
Good
good evening.
evening.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to meet you, Miss Elizabeth. Please, I
Nice
want to
meet you.
find out that as a beginner in business analysis, what are the basic skills on one hand, and then the basic tools on another hand that you need practically for as a business analyst, that you feel okay at the beginning these ones will be very effective to use? I know you have mentioned chat GPT and a few others to train you on some of those things, but I mean, like things like maybe Jira or Trello or something like that. What are the other things that you need as a professional BA that you can advise us on that will be helpful?
Okay, thank you. So basically, your core
That's
skills
it.
as a yeah, sure, that's fine. Your core skills as a business analyst, you need to be able to elicit requirements, manage your stakeholders, requirement gathering, stakeholder management. You need to be able to analyze documents. So when you're saying your basic skills, what documents, spreadsheets, you will do a lot of spreadsheets. But you see the likes of Jira and see, those things are good to know. But every company, every firm, every industry has a different tool that they use. All you need, if you know how to use Jira, you will, to an extent, be able to use Slack, to an extent, be able to use Azure DevOps. So you just need to have a basic understanding of how to use these tools. And then you will be able to use any other one. Yes, it might take you a while to figure out, oh, this is used this certain way on Azure, and then on Jira is a different way. But basically, basics, they're all the same tool, if that makes sense. So your basic understanding of being able to use Excel sheets, Word documents will to an extent transfer to all the skills. But as a business analyst, the basic things are not even these tools.
What is it?
The basic things I would tell you in my experience, and not even these tools. The tools are good to know, don't get me wrong, very important to know. But how do you communicate with people? Are you able to have conversations? Are you able to ask the correct question, the right question? Are you able to analyze documents and deduct sensible outcomes from such documents? Are you a fast thinker? Are you able to process information? The soft skills, they are extremely important. Are you a fast learner? Are you quick to learn? Like, even if there are a lot of projects you go on and you know absolutely nothing about it. But for that's one thing I love about being a business analyst. The project, they're like, oh, Polly, we want you to do this. I know absolutely nothing about it. I work in tax technology. I don't know tax. I don't know tax, but I work in tax technology. So when they bring a project like, oh, we understand you don't know the core of tax, but you know technology, and that's why we need you. And that's where you research, you read, you never stop reading as a business analyst. See, if you've never met me, this is the first time you're meeting me, well, virtually. If there's anything, like if you don't listen to anything I tell you today, listen to this one thing. If you don't like to read, if you don't like to learn, you cannot be a business analyst. You can't go far. Because you're ever evolving, you're ever learning, unlearning to relearn. You're always learning. My friends, they usually say something like, you're always reading. There's always one thing to read or the other. Because for every project I go on and I don't know anything about that project, but for me to understand when they're having conversations, I need to do research to understand the industry or the context. That's the word, the context of the project I'm working on. So you always have to learn and relearn. So in my experience, those are the basics I would tell you.
Merci beaucoup. Any other question from anyone?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other question from anyone? And the issue of, or the point of relearning, or you can't stop learning rather, it applies to all sectors, not even only business analyst. Whether you are a software tester, whether you are a data analyst, it applies to everyone. It applies to everyone because the tech industry, is going to everly be evolving. And you need to, you don't want to be a business analyst of yesterday. You want to be able to be relevant today and tomorrow. And that applies to everyone. You don't want to be, a business or data software tester of yesterday. You need to move with the time. You need to continue to move with the time. Any other question from anyone? Do you have any other question? Again, remember, you are free
I
to
have a
ask
quick
any
question
question.
for you. Sorry, it's Miriam again.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry. I know you were saying sometimes, you don't understand the project. You have to do your own research and all of that to understand the context of the project. So, what would you say that you enjoy most about being a BA while you're working sometimes?
Discovering things. That discovery, like going into a project and I know nothing. And in 3 weeks, I'm suddenly the SME of that project. Like, you can practically call me and ask me something, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is how we do it. This is in so documents. Or okay, I don't know it, but talk to this person, and the person will be able to help you. So another thing about being a business analyst is like you, of course, normally you can't know everything, but that also comes in, well, my workplace, you not knowing it, but you know how to signpost is a major plus. Like, oh, I don't know this, but I know this certain person worked on this. Sometimes you might want to speak with that person. Like, you become the go-to person to speak to when there's an issue. So for me, it's just discovering, learning something new. And then being a business analyst, is my patience has increased. My emotional intelligence too has increased because when you're dealing with different people from different walks of life, somebody might just be in a bad mood and they've just decided they're going to make everybody they come in contact with that day, they're going to make them feel terrible. So, based on your emotional intelligence and how you're able to manage people, you're able to manage such stakeholders. So, really, there are a lot of things I enjoy about being a business analyst. So, right now that I'm saying, I would say being able to manage people when I need to, being able to learn new things, ever learning. I'm hardly bored with work. Because if I'm bored with work, life is going to be hard. And I guess that's one thing I enjoy about business analysis. It's never really boring. It's not a repetitive task. No. So yeah.
Thank you. I think we're more alike in the same way. That's good to know.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome.
Any other question from anyone else before we call it? Tokwe.
Yes, thank you. I think it's safe to say that with business analysis, you get to meet people on different class in life, and you get to build your community of connections, right? Because you meet different clients, you meet different categories of maybe high class people, medium class business people, and all those things. And then, with a good connection with them, you get to, kind of hone your relationship.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, you do.
you can practically walk into any place to know this person.
Yes, actually, based on maybe the firm or the industry you work in, it could open a lot of doors to you because you practically every business needs a business analyst. That's just it. So yes, you just keep networking, growing your network. Yeah.
Tokwe, is that a new hand or an old hand?
Thank you. Yeah, that's all. Just
All right.
I also have one
Yeah.
more question, or is anybody asking any questions
You
before
can you can go on.
Okay. Um, during your time, you've been working with this company for the past 3 years, and you know how the market is right now. There's a lot of people looking for the same role, and it's quite hard there. So how did you manage to get to your how did you manage to get through the interview stage? Because during your time as
Mm.
well, I'm very sure there would have been a lot of people, applying for that particular role. What did you do
Mm.
differently, or should I say, was it just obviously? I know your CV got to that interview stage, but then again, during the interview, was there anything you said in particular that you feel that got you that role, or was there any or was it how you sell yourself, or what did you do in particular that actually helped, please, if you don't mind?
Okay.
Thank you.
So I like I mentioned earlier, I practically stalked people that were doing my current role. I was looking at their CVs on LinkedIn, on like just Googling CVs for this business analyst in consulting and all that. So I was like, I could edit my CV like 10 times in a day. Like, I'll just keep researching. So when I see something, I'll be like, okay, go back to my CV, go check. How do I invite this? And then I did like a gap analysis on myself. So, like I said earlier, I checked their CV, things I did not have, and it felt like 5 out of 7 or 7 out of 10 people in my current role had it. I started studying, like working on myself. And then when I got to a place where I felt, oh, at least to an extent, I'm not a professional at doing this, but I can practice, like I'm a practitioner. I had it to my CV. I didn't just bulk up my CV, no. For anything I didn't have there, I worked towards it and then I added it to my CV. Besides that, I was very careful with the way I sold myself, with every word in describing myself. I was very intentional. So aside my CV, I was applying to a certain industry for a particular role. And I was focused on that because that was what my CV was doctored for. Apart from LinkedIn, JobServe, all those job boards, I would then go into those companies, their individual websites, and then upload my CV for any website that says, oh, upload your CV and fill this form, whatnot, if like their recruitment page and all that. So I would go there, apart from the ones I've applied on. Pardon? Oh, I thought I was sorry. So I would go to their websites and upload my CV and then fill whatever form they had on it. So when I got the email for my job, I didn't even know the job I was being interviewed for. I checked my email. I didn't remember applying for that role. Of course, I would have at some point, but I didn't know. I didn't see anything that had to do with in my email. In fact, I had to email them to say, oh, I have an interview with you on so date, and I cannot seem to find the job description. Could you please email the job description so I can get ready? And they sent it to me. They called me and said, have I gotten it? I'm like, yes, I have. And I went. So before the interview, they sent another mail where they told me the names of the people that would interview me and the role I was being interviewed for, of course, after they sent the job description. And I also went to research the people that were going to interview me. Found their details on LinkedIn, you know. So on the day of the interview, in fact, that interview was not an interview. It felt like a chat between friends because at first I was obviously nervous and they saw it and they're like, oh, try and calm down. We're your friends. We don't want you to fail because we don't also want to be doing interviews. So calm down and let's have a conversation. And that was it. We basically had a conversation. And then another thing I know I did is I watched a lot of interview videos before my interview because there are a lot of questions that are asked during interviews that we mistake as in just questions. But I can tell you, no interview question is just question. Everything, there's something behind that question. If somebody is asking you, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? They're not just asking for asking sake, or they're saying, tell us about yourself. They're interested in your, yes, to an extent, they might be a little be interested in what you do as a person, but they're not interested in your extracurricular activities per se. They want you to sell yourself. And those videos really helped me. For there was one when they said, do you have any other question for us? And some people say no. Oh my God, that's the worst thing you could say in an interview. No, okay. How? Why? When? No, no. I watched videos, and a lot of videos, they'll tell you questions to ask when you ask this particular question. So when he said, do you have questions for us? I really didn't have questions about the role per se, because my role wasn't really advertised online. Everything confidential, confidential. It was not advertised online, so I couldn't really pass saying, okay, I knew I was a business analyst going into technology, but what exactly I'll be doing in that role, I wasn't sure of at that time. So I didn't have a lot of questions around that role. So when they asked, do you have any other question for us? Yes, so the questions I asked them was even more than the questions they asked me in the interview. I was like, oh, I've seen X person, like colleagues at work commended him for always coaching and all that. Like, how does what was the question again? Like, is that his role? And if he was a coach, what advice would he give me if I was successful in this role? And then, like, what advice would he give me, like, for the first 3 months in the role? And that the interview that was supposed to be for like 30 minutes lasted for an hour, 30 minutes. And it was just chat. So for some reason, because of that conversation, according to them, I left a lasting impression because it was two of them, and I asked them questions about their career. Oh, how did you get to this? Because I saw one, she used to work in a restaurant, and then a journey into technology, and then getting to where she was. So I asked her, and people, they like to talk about themselves. So they kept talking and talking till 30 minutes turned to 1 hour, 30 minutes. And that conversation, according to them, left a lasting impression. Supposedly, aside my skills on my CV, supposedly leaving a lasting impression helped me in getting that role.
Wow, that
So
was
even if you
marvelous.
have 5 minutes, 10 minutes to talk to somebody, make sure you leave a lasting impression that in the next 2 years, they'll still like, oh, I had a conversation with somebody, that person had sense.
Honestly, you've said more than what I was expecting. If I was in the person's shoes as well, I'll feel the same way, even from how you're talking right now. And honestly, you've given me like an insight of what to do and how to tackle these interviews. Because sometimes we feel like we know it all, but we don't. We do some little of all those mistakes here and there. And I like the way you question them back, asking those questions because they'll feel like, okay, that means whatever she's asking us does make sense. And honestly, you've
Yeah.
said, yeah, you really helped. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, yeah, just I would say, make employees feel like, oh, you're already seeing yourself in that role. Like you've gone the extra length to do the research. You've invested your time.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Preparation goes a long way. There's no other way to say it. Preparation goes a very, 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 very long way. And again, one of the tactics is what she just said about go and do research. Number one, about the company itself. You know that to a certain extent what they do. Number two is the people that will be interviewing you. There's no way they will tell you, and surely 95% of the time they will be on LinkedIn, where you can read their life history. And that is where your question will come from. Maybe you saw one of the people that will be interviewing you, that has been working there for the last 13 years. There must be a reason why he has been there for 13 years. Why? You know? You would like to know. Things like that. They just want to see that you are interested, because they are looking for a perfect fit, someone that fits into their culture, into their way of doing things. And that is why when they see someone that fits perfectly, they can go extra mile, you know, to make the requirement of that person, fulfill the requirement of that person. Take, for example, they've interviewed you, you fit perfectly, they wanted you, they've offered you the role, and your circumstances has changed. Maybe now you can't really go to office 5 days a week just because of childcare. But that wasn't there as at the time of the interview. It's something that you can negotiate, you know,
Mhm.
because it's easier for them to grant you your wish than for them to start the recruitment process
Wait for someone else. Yeah.
all over again. It's not easy to find that one person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy at all, you know.
Yeah.
Also, it's always good for you to be prepared for tomorrow. You don't know when that opportunity will come knocking. That is why, our hard work, our sweat, and I always say something that it is not about how knowledgeable you are on the role or the role you're applying for. It is not how good you are. It is not, what you really know. Eventually, you get in that role is simply by the grace and favor. But the thing
Mhm.
is, you cannot get to that place of grace and favor if you have not passed through, the process. If you don't know the basics of your role, you know. But getting the role is totally, the grace and favor and your preparation. Everything will just come together and make it all, you know. That is it. So when I say let's commit our time, energy, and sweat every single day, commit certain hours into that process, whether 1 hour, whether 2 hours, to do something on the process, and you'll be shocked, the level at which you find yourself at the end of the program. It might not be easy. I'm not saying it won't be easy, but again, there's a reward for everything. Just think about the reward that you're going to get. It might not be convenient for you. I know how much I suffered during my own time. You know, I do say for those who saw me during that time, you think I was on drugs, swollen eyeballs, sleepless nights, and all of that because I did coding and my background was accounting. Just imagine someone coming from an accounting background to go and do coding. It wasn't easy at all. But I told myself, you know what, I'm not going to back out. Instead, I'll keeping on, I'll keep going. And eventually, you know, God God answered that prayer, which are which can happen to anybody. We can't just stop because we are getting the unfortunate answers. We are getting the no's. You keep applying, but you are getting the no's. As human, majority just I give up. Let me just go back to what I was doing and stop stressing myself. But you don't know that the no's that you are getting is pushing you, you know, closer to the yes that you're going to get.
Yes. Yeah.
And every no, you should learn from it. In fact, if it's possible, you should record every interview
Mm-hmm.
so that you can go back and listen to yourself. Or maybe send it to friends who are into the, line, someone more experienced to analyze, and to tell you, give you a feedback. That is what you are going, with the recordings, you improve yourself because your first interview might be the worst interview. But as you go on, the second, the third, it will become better to the extent that, you can even predict what they are going to ask you
Mm-hmm.
from the fourth, from the fifth, from the sixth, So getting no's as an answer, it's not a sign for you to stop applying. Even if millions of people are doing that same role, I do tell people, yes, thousands of people might be doing the same thing, but they are different from you. That is why you need to sell yourself differently. Because they are not getting jobs doesn't mean that you are not getting job. As at the time Aduki got her own job, I told you she only did,
Mm.
well, your training back then, I don't know, was it 2 months? I can't even remember. Whether 2 months or 3 months, I can't even remember.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
With no project. So are you telling me that when she applied for that role, they did not interview someone with more than 5 years experience, real experience on the same role for that same job? And someone with over 5 years experience didn't get that role. Meanwhile, she that finished a 3 month or 2 months training got the role. How come? You know, again, that is where grace, favor, hard work, you know, comes into play. So don't think because, oh, others around you are complaining, oh, a business analyst or a project manager, they've been at home for 5 years. They didn't get a role. Because of that, you were discouraged. Me too, I won't get a role. See, God answers prayer. Whatever you tell God is what you're going to get. I'm telling you. So
Yeah.
it's the power of the tongue. It's what you confess. That is what is
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. I told myself when I was starting my own career transitioning journey, I knew definitely it was a hard, what I was doing, the course I was doing was hard, difficult, and technical. But I told myself, you know what, come rain, come shine, come any difficulty, I'm not going to back out. And again, I'm not just going to do that training for the sake of doing training. I'm going to get something. I'm going to get a job out of that training. You know? Again, I've said this many times. As at the time I transition, I cannot boast of knowing 30% of that role. I cannot. All these agile rituals that, despite the fact that I'm not a scrum master, but because I'm still a software engineer, I'm working in an agile environment, they'll still ask me similar questions at the interview. I know I have no clue about them. It takes me, I can't say the amount of reading, you know, putting pen to paper for me to know all this sprint planning, sprint review, because I haven't done it before. I didn't experience any live, project. So it was hard, it was difficult for me. Aside the technical test that you have to do as a tester before you even get to the stage of interview, it was hard, it was a tough journey. But because of that, I did not, I didn't back out. Again, the power of community, the power of having the like-minded people around you. I do tell you as well, the people I transition with, two or three of them, we're still best of friends today. Maybe I'm even going to invite one of them to come and talk on the session one day. Because you can never know it all. You need someone at your corner, you know.
Very important.
Several times whether it's me, maybe I've gone to them knocking at their door, come on, SOS, or they coming to me. You need someone that you can go to. You need someone that, so many tasks I was given when I first started doing the role, that second day is like, I will feel like, am I going to go to work the second day? My heart will be beating fast that, how am I going to do this thing? We had to connect for several hours on the call, trying putting heads together to solve it. Those are the people that you need, in your corner. And it's this type of settings that is the same, environment that we met ourselves. That is why I always preach that, what, the people that you are in the same training with, the people that you are in the same project with, you know, you can form your own small community from there.
Mm-hmm.
Your own community can start from there. You can have a separate session, outside the normal class, that, what, oh, Rachel, are you free tomorrow? Can we catch up for 15 minutes or 20 minutes? This area or this topic, I'm not too familiar, can we go through it? Because the best way for you to retain the knowledge is by passing that knowledge to someone else as well.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, all these, talks, you know, bonding, getting to know each other after the training, you know, it won't stop. Those, you formed your own community that you can know, you know that, oh, anytime I message or call Rachel, she'll answer my call. You cannot be you cannot be alone on the journey. You can't do it by yourself.
You can't be an island. It's not possible.
No, you cannot, you cannot. And yeah, that is that. So the power of the tongue is very, very important as well. Me, I do not care. See, it's like a business. There is no business that you want to go into now that other people are not doing already. But does that mean that if you start your own business, you are not going to make profit or you're not going to get your own customer? You know, it doesn't. So thousands, millions of people might be doing a business analyst. Trillion might be doing a software tester. But I do tell myself that doesn't stop me from getting I'll be part of these 3 million people, you know, with a role. Power of the tongue, before you know it, you realize it will come to, uh, what's that thing called now? Fruition. So please, 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 there's no retreat, there's no surrender. I fully understand it could be tiring, it could be frustrating, especially when you start applying and you are getting that no's, you know. But again, what do you have to lose? Absolutely nothing. Getting that no should even trigger you, ginger you more, that you know what? You think I'll turn this no to a yes. And before you realize it, you from nowhere, the job that you get will just be like, how did it happen? How did it happen? So do not stop. Don't stop. Do not stop. Any other question before we call you a night?
Yes, just one more. Sorry.
Go for it.
My question would be, how did you handle a stakeholder, a difficult stakeholder? Did you kind of read a book about how to manage this kind of people, or did you just, because I know you were talking about emotional intelligence earlier. So please, how did you go about maybe one of the top stakeholders? How did you handle the situation at the time? Thank you.
Yeah, so apart from the books and the videos I watched on stakeholder management, and the stakeholder I was saying earlier that was always changing requirements at every meeting, I looked for somebody that worked with them before and I tapped in your knowledge. I'm like, okay, I'm working with this person. So I was talking to my manager and I told them the issue I was having and I didn't want them to step in. I want to resolve it on my own. I just wanted pointers on how to deal with the person. So they pointed me to somebody that worked with them before, and the person gave me pointers on how to handle them. And I took their advice, changed it here and there to, okay, for instance, saying, oh, the person is really smart. And when they feel like they're not being heard, they become difficult. So I put in a meeting with just the two of us. And I explained that, okay, I'm not trying to be difficult here, and I know I'm trying to meet a deadline. However, what exactly do you want? Like, now, don't let us solutionalize. Nobody knows it. Just tell me what you want. Once you're able to communicate what you want to me, then we can now sit down and see how we can make it happen. And he calmed down and he told me what he wanted. Now, for some people, it's hard for them not to be looking for solutions to their problem. So every time he went out of the scope of just tell me what you want, I'll be like, okay, we're going outside the scope, come back. You should always be able to bring your stakeholders back to base without coming off as arrogant. But for every meeting as a business analyst, you have to control because to a certain extent, you have to lead the meeting, you have to control. So I like, okay, come back. You're trying to solutionalize now. All I need is exactly what you want. Don't tell me how to get what you want. Just tell me what you want. We had that conversation, and that was the beginning, the transition of us having a wonderful work relationship. So sometimes I've come to understand it could be they are pulled off by somebody else in the meeting. It could be the way you carry yourself that annoys them. It could be a number of things that just triggers them. Just try to find a balance, come down to their level if possible, and iron things out. Like you would with somebody you have issues with, but you're in a professional setting, you can't have issues with anybody. So we had that conversation. They told me what they wanted, and I'm like, okay, I would go now. I would go and speak to the developers, and I will come back to you with what they think would work. And that was how we sorted. But if I had not reached out to find out who had worked with them and pick their brain, get a bit of knowledge there, it would have been hard for me because I would have kept on doing things the same way. And what I learned from that experience is no two stakeholders are the same. You have to, at the beginning of your research, to understand the context of what you're working on, you also need to do a bit of research to understand the stakeholders you have to deal with because they can make or mar you. Does that answer your question?
It did. Thank you so much. Because I know a question like this might even come out in an interview stage, because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, 95% of this role is managing and, engaging with stakeholders. Hence the reason why I asked
Yeah.
that question. And I really like the fact that you mentioned that it's good to talk to people who have dealt with them before in the past. And they
Mm-hmm.
would have obviously seen how to handle people like this. And it was a good approach that you took, honestly. I like the approach as well myself. So thank you so much for elaborating on
You're
that. Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any final question from anyone before we round up?
I have one more. Please, in the future, I would like to follow you on LinkedIn. That's a question, but that's a
Yes,
request
my
if you don't
name
mind.
is
Please,
yes, my name
thank you.
is Abdullah Olubukalai Lisbeth on LinkedIn. Let me see if
Okay,
I can find a link. I would send it to the group. So
please.
yes,
Thank
that's
you so
fine.
much.
You're welcome.
Any other question why I should look for the link? Any final question from anyone?
Honestly, I don't know how to say this, but you talk so calmly, like you take your words one by one. I really don't know how you got how you got here, but is there anything that you can
I've sent
do?
a
Thank
link.
you.
Oh, thank you
Oh,
so much for sharing her LinkedIn. How did
thank
you like?
you.
Did you read books, or is there a particular way we have to like? I really wish I could speak this slow. You know, it's just honestly every word is you can capture. Like you take your time, and I think this is what really how do I say this? I mean, during your interview, like honestly, if I was an interview person as well, hiring with the way you talk, honestly, would capture my heart as well as a person, regardless
Oh,
of the CV and all of
thank
that. So
you.
honestly, I was gonna say that to you. Thank you so much for taking your time out
Thank
to
you.
speak to every one of us tonight.
Thank
It's
you.
been
Thank
honestly an amazing time. Thank you so much.
you.
All
I
right.
hope I've been able to help one way or the other, and I hope you all get the job you're all looking for. I wish you all the best.
Amen. Thank you so much. And in case if I get any job, I'll let you know. You're the first person after Mr. Aki.
I'll be
Thank you
looking
so
forward
much.
to hearing the great news.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm
Take
tapping
care.
into the glory. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Aki, for the privilege. Thank you. I
No,
really appreciate.
no problem. So thanks everyone for joining. I hope one way or the other you've been able to learn something from the session. How tiny, it doesn't matter how tiny the information is. You'll be surprised, you know, how it can impact your interview, or even when you're on the job itself. So thanks for joining. Thanks for taking your time not to watch Netflix or Nollywood, but to join this session tonight. Hopefully, we are going to see maybe in the next 2-3 weeks again with a different topic. Till then, do enjoy your night. Thanks, Aduki, for coming once again. And have a good night rest, everyone. Thanks. Good night. Bye bye.
Good night. Bye.